Recording. Right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our 12th edition of Our Community Stories. We're coming up on a year of these history and storytelling events, and they have truly been my favorite time over the last year, and I hope that that you've also felt the same. Today's is a little bit different than our regular versions. We are bringing together residents from a few of the neighborhoods that we featured so far this year. So we'll have residents from College Heights, the Bottom, Merrick Moore. Some of our residents from Brookstown weren't able to join, so maybe we'll have other people on the call, and we may have someone from East End who's able to join via phone. But this is a fun time just to kind of bring everyone together and hear all the commonalities and have a little bit more time to talk across the communities. As always, thank you to the city of Durham. My name is Laura Biediger. I guess I should tell you that. I am an equitable community engagement strategist with the city of Durham, and this entire series is hosted and supported by the city of Durham, specifically through my department, the Neighborhood Improvement Services Department. And it's all a part of our work within equitable community engagement, really focusing on making sure that everyone's voice is heard within the community. And a part of that is understanding the larger history of the communities in Durham, which is why we spent the last year hosting this series and focusing specifically on Black and African American communities in Durham and learning more about the stories from those communities. You can learn more about our work at durhamcommunityengagement.org. Today, we have several staff members who are joining us, other city staff, to ask questions and kind of be a part of the conversation with our residents. So we have our city manager, Wanda Page, who is also a longtime Durham resident. So I'll turn over to her in a second. Maybe she can share a little more about that. My director, Constance Ansel, director of Neighborhood Improvement Services Department. My coworker, Kevin Jones, who's a community engagement strategist with our Neighborhood Improvement Services Department. And then we have three of our communities represented. We have Linda Rice from the Bottom, Beverly Barnes Evans, and Melva George Riggle from College Heights. And then we have Benita Green and Alton Holloway back from Merrick Moore. And at this point, I will turn it over to them and for City Manager Page to maybe do another intro and begin asking questions and more time with our community stories. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Laura. I am very, very happy to be here today for the time that I do have. I am very happy to be a long-term Durham resident. While I was not born in Durham, I've lived in Durham, North Carolina for the past 39 years. I married a Durhamite. I married Craig Page, whose family has been in the College Heights community for a very long time, before he was born, and he was born in the 50s. So much of my my connectivity to legacy neighborhoods in Durham for much of my life, and I say much of it, most of my adult life has been visiting and being interested in and involved in our neighborhoods, the ones that I've lived in personally, but the ones that are the root neighborhood of my family. So it is always interesting to me to hear the stories. Some folks that work with me say I have a very good memory, so I remember a lot of the facts that I hear, and I connect them to the present. And as I sit in the seat of the city manager for Durham since March, permanently since March 15th, I feel very privileged to be in a place to help connect some of the dots of things that may have been overlooked or missed or somehow not given the attention that it should have been given over the years. I always like to say, I'm only one person. I can't, can't lift the whole weight, but I can be a part. I can be a part of it, and I can understand it. And being in meetings today helps me gain a greater understanding of our community and what it means to the residents, the long-term residents, and their ancestors and their elders, and some of which are with us today and have traveled these roads and streets and been a part of the institutions and entities in this community for many, many years. So I will end my comments with that introduction, but I would certainly like to welcome everyone here that is listening. One day we'll be back in person, but it looks like it's about 75 people up here. And I was chatting or listening to only a few of them, but I know there are lots more out there. So again, thank you for having me in this space today, and welcome.
Want to ask your first question, Wanda?
I think I can do that. And let me just get to it. I should have had it pulled up.
That's okay. Right.
Okay, my first question is, what were some of the biggest challenges your community faced?
Well, some of the biggest challenges that our community faced. I am Melba George Regal. I live in College Heights. Was actually and I'll be talking solely during the period of the growing up formative years. I can say that it was actually racism, and it was the racism, whereas it seemed that whites seemed to do as much as they could to deter us from moving forward, as well as our independence. In our particular neighborhood, we leaned on each other to cross a lot of barriers that we otherwise wouldn't be able to cross, and that was due to racism. And Beverly, what was your experience?
Yes, racism also, and just a lack of civil rights, just going on. It was just the times of in the South with Jim Crow and all. So it was very pronounced all around the city, downtown area, with whites only, fountains and bathrooms and all of that. And so our forefathers created Pettigrew Street, which was thriving for them to be able to have all of these things without racism being involved. And you felt very comfortable, and your dollars that you made were circling back into the Black businesses and Black ownership. So that was the biggest challenge, was just the racism and the lack of civil rights.
And also how we were able to overcome them. We had African Americans in the city had mechanics and farmers bank, mutual savings and loan, to kind of help them achieve things that otherwise they would not have. They were able to get loans, buy houses, and to actually thrive, because we had African in North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company was a big part as well. So we were we had our challenges in that particular way due to racism, but we also learned how to combat the racism.
Hi, I'm Benita Green over in Merrittmore community. And our community, we sit on like the border edge of the city, so not like in the downtown area. We were initially the county and then city annexes and we were city out and then we became city. But either way, we were kind of, because of the way our community sits, we were like a pass through from the white communities that sat further east of us to get to downtown. So it was a very blatant sort of racism, because I remember as a child growing up here that the Klan had a clubhouse just over the railroad tracks at Junction Road, and so with Cheek Road, you had the as their thoroughfare to the city, then you had the constant kind of barrage of things that would happen from, people just throwing trash out into communities, people, shouting, ugly things at you, and even putting up like roadblock barriers in the road, just doing like really silly, mischievous things. But as well, and I'll let Algin elaborate on that, I think for us, one of the big things that disadvantaged our city is because our road, Cheek Road, is a state road, and we have been lobbying for years, advocating for years to get sidewalks out in our community, and it's just, it's not happening. We've had a lot of deaths and have lost members of this community, on that road because there aren't any sidewalks. So I'm going to let Algin, speak to that a little bit too.
Uh, we did face discrimination, and on in the Merrittmore community as well as in Durham that goes way back. One of the ways to avoid overt racism or being dominated by the majority population, you created your own. And Beverly talked about Pettigrew Street. And Pettigrew Street was there when I was a little boy, and I used to go down there and we used to see, some of everybody who was famous at that time, entertainers and stuff like that. And also, there are two people on this panel that whose families are connected going way back. And I'm thinking about Miss Manager. And I think your family's connected to the Marvin Page and the whole 9 yards, and Reverend Page and Burley Page and that little block of Cecil Street and all of them, and the one that taught me history in high school. Anyway, people will create their own businesses and insulate themselves from prejudice or something that is not known. And as I told y'all in the pre-conference, I'm always dipping and dabbing, and I'm gonna complete some of this stuff one of these days. But one of the greatest businesses created in Durham, nobody never knew about it, was that the Black people of Durham ran the cab business in Durham. Okay, 1938. Okay, if I hit your car like now, right, and you'd bring me an estimate before the end of the day, I would tell you to take to the treasury. You have your check before the banks close. Okay, this was the Durham Tax Cap Association, of which the Pages were a part. Beverly's father, Joe Bonds, was a part, and that was one thing. And then going further back, my grandfather bought a farm in 1918 on Redwood Road, and that kind of insulated you from certain things. And there's a picture down that was on this video. That was my father's family. Everybody except him, I guess he had gone to preach or something that day. And my other Uncle James, who had passed. But that's 9 of the 11 siblings of my father's family. And the children of John and Delra Holloway. And I'm probably too late to be doing anything about it now, but I talked to the Land Loss Prevention Project, and they were supposed to flood the whole farm, but they didn't. And so I'm trying to see what can be done with, with the other part of it, and where we can go back and gather the river one more time.
Okay, this is Linda Rice, the Bottom South Side Community Reunion Committee. I'll say that in our neighborhood, we experienced probably one of the biggest issues was racism, as everyone else has said. And we're back to the traditional railroad tracks that separate the communities. We were adjacent to Forest Hills, and we had that track that ran right through the bottom on through the other end of Roxburgh Street to separate our two communities. And someone has already mentioned the Black establishments on Pettigrew Street, where we had everything that we needed to survive, or it was created. We had the Biltmore Hotel, where all the entertainers stayed there, or anybody Black that was anybody that came in town. We had the Riggle Theater, our own movie theater, where we would go there to the movies. Pee Wee Shoe Shop, along with, we had our own pharmacy on Pettigrew Street. We had our funeral homes there, Scarborough, probably some others that I don't remember at the time, but that's during the time that I was growing up. But one thing that stood out mostly in our neighborhood is we were all like poor, but we were loved, and our parents loved us. They taught us respect and discipline. And we just took everything from there. We listened more. And that sort of helped our community get where we need to be.
Okay, thank you. I think Miss Vivian McCoy is on the phone from East End.
Yeah, I am.
Go ahead.
I am.
You can go ahead and speak.
I thought you wanted to ask me a question. Anyway, I'm listening. I'm listening
Okay.
to the different communities.
What the question was, what was the question, Ms. Page?
The first question was, what were some of the biggest challenges your community faced?
Yeah, so that's the first question, Ms. McCoy.
Well, the thing is, well, all the communities face the same racism. All you communities were unique. In my community, we had Michael them the last time. One thing they forgot to say was that we had a lot of professional people living in our communities,
Right.
lawyers, teachers, and nurses. And most of the teachers taught at East End School. But we had some businesses also on Dowell Street. Michael referred to that. But basically, the communities suffered the same thing. We only had 2 Black schools, and that was for high schools, and that was Merrittmoor and Hillside. The segregation in the city, as far as the schools were concerned, were that we used textbooks that the students had used at Durham High.
Mhm.
But it didn't keep us from learning. I know, Constance, you wanted me to ask a question about the pros and cons of integration.
Yeah,
But
I'll get to
before we
that. I'll get to that a little bit later, okay?
Okay. But anyway, most communities were self-sufficient because they had no choice to be but self-sufficient. There were always community events at the churches. I don't know what people remember Reverend Sanders or not. Reverend Sanders pastored the Jesus House of Prayer on Dowell Street. It still exists today. I don't know if that's still the same name. But Reverend Sanders, every summer, rented a bus and took the people who lived in the East End community to Chavis Park in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
It was always a free trip, and his church members, the sisters, could cook. always had food for us. Now, this was a community event that was done every year, free of charge to the families. But East End, we were segregated, but on the back of Mallard Avenue, at the corner of Hazel and Mallard, were white people who lived there. Most of them were Greeks. They lived on Mallard and Holloway and Dillard, because white people would not accept Greeks nor Asians in their community. So there was always white kids on Mallard Avenue. We dealt with the difference of racism, which was some was open, some of it was sudden. But the business people in the city did not respect Black people irregardless to what their title were. I do remember many times white people would call our house and call for my father's name, which they never used. They always said, "May I speak to Sammy?" And I said, "Sammy don't live here," and hang up the phone. And in the meantime, my father's standing right beside me. They would call 3 or 4 times. And at the 4th time, I said, "If you can't call him, call here and ask for Reverend McCoy, then you can't speak to him." Slam. My father's name was not Sammy. So they would call back and say, "May I speak to Reverend?" The thing is this, even the domestic workers who lived in my community and worked in white people's houses never really gained respect. They were subservient to all the white people they worked for. But I told my mother as a kid, I will never work in any white woman's house. I'm not going to change no diapers of no white butts. And I'm not cleaning no white woman's house. They would ride through the community in the summertime, knocking on doors. Now, I don't know about the other communities. I'm talking about East End. To try to find young people to clean their houses. Fortunately, I don't know of any teenager in my community that did that. It was the older adults.
Thank you, Ms. McCoy. Ms. Page, you want to ask your second question?
Yes, I would, Ms. Stansel. Second question I have is, how would you say your community has changed? What are some major differences between your community as you grew up and the community that you see today?
Do you really want to hear it?
Yeah, could you take just a minute to respond?
Oh, yes. We have been infiltrated with white people. They're going into all the different Black communities that are centrally located near the downtown area, buying up houses and moving in. Now, East End was considered part of downtown. Okay? So, in our community, we could get downtown in less than 10 minutes. But now we have been infiltrated with whites moving into the community. And also we have over in my community, they have Asians and Indians moved in. And I'm not talking about Native Americans. I'm talking about Indians from India and some Africans.
Thank you.
But that's the difference. If white flight was to move to the outskirts of the city and in the suburban area, now they're back in the city. what they really want to do is take over all the black communities, because the black communities were the ones that were closer to the downtown area. So in all the communities in Durham, that black communities have been infiltrated with the moving in of white people buying up properties at not a reasonable price. But then they build houses, and the cheapest is about 300 plus.
I would just like to add, this is Linda, again, from the bottom, south side, and we are located very close to downtown. My old neighborhood is not there anymore. My house number is there, but it's a brand new house there. And everything has changed. There are new houses are torn down, they've rebuilt. And you have a few of the old houses there that have been sort of remodeled, but we do have white people moving in to that neighborhood that's centrally located downtown. And I feel the same way about my old neighborhood, that it was designed for that reason. The properties were probably purchased in order to be very close to downtown and move the other Black people out of the neighborhood. And just one more thing that changed my neighborhood as well was that one creation of that 147 that ran straight through Hayti, all the Black communities, the bottom, it ran everywhere, and just eliminated, it separated the Black community and just put us all over the place.
Well, I can say as far as College Heights, the houses in the neighborhood are still the same. The only difference that is quite noticeable is that there are very few children in our neighborhood now. Beverly?
Yes, and I'm Beverly, also from College Heights. And our neighborhood used to be lively and loud with lots of children playing outside in the streets and in their yards because it was kind of insulated. The neighborhood was insulated. Now it's very quiet and reserved. The original neighbors have all passed away except for one, and that's Miss Page's mother-in-law. She's the matriarch of the community now of College Heights. And so
Soon to be 97. Soon to be
yes,
97.
yes,
Bless her.
indeed. Yes.
Yes.
And we now have people that are buying up some of the homes, and these people now are white people because the homes are extremely priced so high that a lot of Blacks cannot afford it. So either they buy the house and tear it down, and then with the new ordinance of being able to build smaller houses on small properties, you know, they're able to put 2 and 3 houses on one lot where it used to be just one house. So we're finding that is starting to happen now in College Heights.
Well, we've only had that for really affecting one particular place in College Heights, at least so far. And we still are a predominantly Black neighborhood. So if we would describe the neighborhood, it started off Black and it is still predominantly Black now, with a sprinkle of white families, but not a lot at all.
Yeah, not a lot. And the white families that are here are very nice. They're younger millennials. They're
They're
younger.
very
so,
young. Mhm.
yeah.
And
Right.
they're the ones who brought some little children in there because we did miss the it is great to hear every now and then some children, but that's the biggest change.
Yeah, I will kind of echo over here in Merritt-Moore that being a predominantly, we were a historically Black community, our historically Black community, and it was all Black. As time has gone on, it was like a different families here who owned properties. And so you had rentals, and the rentals that were moving in, they were either Black or they were from the Latin community. And now, as you know, some of the people who, or the children that inherited properties, they no longer live here in this community. So they're either selling off a home, or there are a lot of vacant lots over here, and they're selling them off. And that's where we see flippers and developers coming in, and you see the white families that are moving in more, but predominantly our population is still Black, Hispanic, and then white. But as you know, like I said, things change and people grow. And the one thing that I see the biggest change in our community is that we had a sense of community, which it's not there anymore. Like everybody knew everybody, everybody supported everybody, helped everybody. But now everybody's in their own houses, in their own yards. And, you know, there's the communication is not there. The sense of neighborhood and community is not the same as it was when I grew up.
Well, that's all. That's in every Black community now. Even those that have remained predominantly Black, it's that it's separatism. You have these people move in, but it's no community unity as it was before. So
Exactly.
that is a problem.
What do you think drove that connection in the communities back then? Why was there neighborhood cohesion and people connected with each other? What drove that?
One of the reasons was because the churches were the center of the community, and all community meetings basically were held in churches. And there was a unification between the churches also, even though they had their separate church buildings.
I think it was back in the day, it was like the East Cedar Grove Association, and most of the churches, the Black churches in Durham, were members of the East Cedar Grove Association. So, and that was located up in Creedmoor, and there was a convention every summer, and churches would converge there. So you had a sense of churches working together. Churches are always the center of the community. So if the churches are in commune with each other, then you have the communities that are intersecting with each other on a regular basis. Like, you know, if another church is having their anniversary or revival, you know, the other churches are connected in that if a pastor came to speak at your church, he's going to bring his choir with him, and he's going to bring his best choir with him, you know, because he needs to show off and look good. So he's not going to bring, you know, the choir that sings off tune. And so that brought a lot of intersectionality between the different Black communities in Durham. And then you had families, you know, while a lot of times they were centered in one community, then those family members, as they grew and they married other people, they would move into other communities. I remember as a child, you know, visiting, you know, family and friends in Bradtown and spending a lot of time over in Bradtown. My aunts lived in North Durham, so we spent a lot of time in North Durham. And through the Ushers Board Union, because the ushers, the junior ushers and all the churches in Durham, we have this fundraising, because every summer we would go to an amusement park. That was something for the kids that the churches put together, but we had to get together to raise our money. And across from Union Baptist Church, there was a gas station there, and we would host car washes. And it was so much fun, because it's not just the people in your neighborhood. You're getting to hang out and mingle with other kids from other communities, and you're raising money and you're having fun. And then you get to get on these buses and go to Carowinds or King's Dominion, or, you know, whatever amusement park there was. So there was your sense of community within your community itself, but then there was a larger sense of community across the city of Durham as well, when it came to, you know, your Black churches and your Black schools and things of that sort.
I want to hear from
speaking
the
of
others.
that,
I want to hear
Anita.
from the other. I want to hear from the other, but I just want to say thank you to our city manager, Paige. I know she has to go to another function, and I really appreciate her taking the time to be with us today. But I do want you to finish your discussion, but we just want to say thank you to her, because we know that she has to.
Yes.
Oh, excuse me. A lot of things I've missed out on, and a lot of people on to my advanced age and the dying of brain cells. But Beverly, the
Yes.
matriarch of your community, did she live down the street from you?
Yes, Mrs. Page, we're talking about the city manager's mother-in-law,
Alderson Weaver.
lives on Nelson Street.
Oh, Nelson,
Yes,
300 Nelson.
right around the corner.
Yeah, the big house. Yeah, the big house, 300 block. Okay, I thought it was the other. Miss Page that
107,
was up on the
107.
corner.
It's the 100 block of Nelson, but they are related. They are related. So
Yeah, yeah.
I will leave. Okay.
And you
Oh,
were talking about Benjamin Page as far as being a history teacher, Algin. He was Mrs. Page's husband.
okay.
Yes,
Benjamin Page.
Mildred Page.
Yeah, he taught me American history in Hillside, and also
Right.
Yes, he does use his history.
speaking of another tidbit. Let me get to speak of this tidbit so I won't forget it. As I said, the dying brain cells. Mr. Burley Page. Do you know why he was not a Tuskegee Airman?
Why?
Because he could fly before he went in the service. And you know, them people ain't gonna be having no young black man knowing how to fly. You know what I'm saying? And that's the story that has come down to me. You know, whether it be true or not, you can investigate it. But I think he has been a pilot since the 30s. The other Miss Page that lives up on the corner. Okay.
I did want to say something regarding what the topic that we were talking on as far as the church involvement, as far as being a meeting place. That is true. But in the College Heights community, you know how there's some neighborhoods that actually have a church physically in their neighborhood. College Heights does not have any churches in it. Um, but during that particular era, well, most of the members, of course, we all went to probably about 4 different churches in the area. But the one who had the one to me that was the most influential as far as cohesiveness as African Americans and getting things together was those meetings were taking place at the St. Joseph AME Church. Now that's when you brought everyone from you would meet other people from other areas because we were there for a lot of times when we got together and especially from all over the city, it was from one cause. It was like strategy sessions as far how to overcome the challenges that we were having in Durham. In fact, as a little girl, I can tell you, it was a meeting place for us to meet and go around town boycotting various businesses. And so St. Joseph's was instrumental in that. But the other members, like went to White Rock. My family, we were Presbyterian, well, are. Since I went to Covenant Presbyterian Church, and I think Mount Zion Church. Those are basically the church members. But those kind of events, by the church being the cornerstone as far as a meeting center, that allowed us to meet people from all over the city that we otherwise would not see.
So you're saying the church played a vital role in the civil rights movement?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I
Can I-
attended White Rock
Can I
Baptist
comment
Church,
on that?
and that's where Martin Luther King came and did his Philip Dale speech at White Rock. Before that's what brought us all together: segregation, and fighting for civil rights. And the church was just all involved with that because we had to have that unified effort in order to be successful and thrive. And like Melva said, we didn't have any churches that were in College Heights proper, but we did have the only Black African-American city high school in our neighborhood, which was Hillside High. And it was within our borders, and that's where we met children from all over.
All over.
Everybody that was in the city had to go there. And we gathered there for special events and various sports practices and clubs, and whatever. So that was a meeting place that was special
Yes, we all
back
Also,
in the day.
also the Whittier Junior High School was a great start for meeting people too, as well, because children from all over the city came to Whittier Junior High School too.
I only spent 1 year with it, so I really don't remember it. I think it was due to school overcrowding. And so from the first through the seventh grade, the kids of College Heights were at CC Spalding. We went to eighth grade at Quidditch, but then starting from 9th through 12th, we were at Hillside High School. So I didn't meet many people while I was
At
at,
Whittier School,
at
yeah,
Whittier.
when I was there, it was 7 through 9. I went to CC Spalding from 1 through 6th grade.
Well,
7 through 9 at Whittier School.
as I said, this was during the time when I think the problem was school overcrowding.
Yeah,
And so
the
that's,
baby boomers, a
and
lot
so
of,
that's the
lot
reason
of black children.
that's the reason we stayed at CC Spalding
Oh, okay.
until the seventh grade. We went there the eighth, and the reason we were only there for the eighth, and while we were there for the eighth, was because they were building on a wing onto Hillside High School that housed the ninth graders. So we were only at quitted from the 1 year, and so therefore didn't meet as many people. But of course, once you got to Hillside, you were able to meet people from everywhere, which was which
Yes.
was good because it's
Yeah.
it's very important to
And Melville, speaking of CC Spalding School, that just reminded me that our seventh grade teacher taught us German. And we were so excited to learn German in the seventh grade that we learned how to speak it. So he only required us speaking German for that class. So, he deviated from the regular curriculum to make sure that we had such a varied education while we were at seventh grade there at CC Spalding.
we were he really played an important part in my life as far as learning German. It's like so important until I am very fluent. In fact, it was my minor. And I have some German friends, so therefore I still get a chance to here and there, break it out here and there. So that was,
That's great.
one thing.
I like to
Yes.
inject that Whittier School was Hillside High School for years before
Correct.
it became a junior high school. And the school in Walltown was closed for renovation, and the students from Walltown that were in the 6th grade came to East End School to finish out their 6th grade education, and then we all went to Whittier. But I just want to inject that Whittier was the first Hillside, and then it became a junior high school. I don't remember which exact year.
That was
I
that
know,
was
I know that a number of you, well, at least one person mentioned that your school books, you never had a new books came from Durham High. They were passed down to you from Durham High. And back then there was the doctrine of separate but equal. And so then integration came around. And I just wanted to ask you the question, while we've had a lot of progress through integration, but what would you say the pros and cons are of integration, and what has been the impact on the Black neighborhoods and the Black family around integration? Understanding.
Well, you got to remember now the Carr Junior High and the high school,
Durham High.
the integration started in I think it was 1960.
Was that
And
freedom
that
of
school
choice?
was integrated by students from Hillside. And of course, the hell that they went through integrating. But let me just say this. Once integration started in the school system, there became a problem with counseling of Black students. If you went to a school that had white counselors, they would try to deter you from furthering your education once you left high school because they felt like black kids couldn't do nothing but menial jobs. That was a problem in some of the high schools. But the kids who integrated those schools caught hell the whole time they were there.
And I was a recipient
Yeah.
of the
Let me just
integration.
say this. The education,
Okay.
the education in the segregated schools in this city were better than integration of the schools. You got pure education and prepare you for life in the segregated schools. So I don't regret going to a segregated school. I'm proud of it.
I agree with that up to some point. But I found within the all black schools, I think that I would be remiss if I did not mention that within those schools also we had to deal with colorism. And
Yes.
and
Oh,
so
yeah.
therefore, I don't think that we should just be talking about black and white because we had to deal with colorism, which is just as bad as dealing with the anarchy between white and black students because there was, as they say, black on black crime right there.
Well, she's right. If you were yellow, you were right. She's right.
Oh,
I never went to school with white people, you know, till I went to college. I went to Walltown School, Whittier School, Merrickmore, and Hillside. And when I got to the University of North Carolina, that's when I first encountered white people on the educational setting. And also, they're talking about the 1619 project.
Yeah.
When you get off this broadcast, look up Hugh Talmadge Leffler. Okay? He wrote the history book for the 4th grade of North Carolina history, the 7th grade, and I sat and listened to him at UNC. All right? And he said the slaves were happy with their lot in life. Okay, so that's the kind of history we're confronted with today in our education system. And UNC is gonna fall way down when it comes to ranking among the institutions of higher learning. But that is not higher learning, that is something else, whatever it is. And Vivian,
Huh?
let me
yeah,
ask a question.
I had to tell some people day before yesterday that that you were a great civil rights person, but you weren't old enough yet. They were looking for you on the Royal Ice Cream.
I was there.
Royal Ice Cream stuff, and I said, no, Vivian wasn't quite that old back then, but she was great in civil rights.
Well, let me just say something about your alma mater. UNC was considered to be a private school during the 40s, 50s, and the early 60s and 70s. UNC students at that particular time, in those years, only wealthy students went there. Their parents were wealthy. You had news commentators like Walter Cronkite, John Mara, all their family members, not all of them, some of their families attended UNC. Northerners in other states thought UNC was a private school. I just corrected an article I read the other day and replied to it. They said UNC is a private institution, and I replied that it was not. If you get a chance to get a copy of the 1619 project, you should read it. You can call the Times newspaper to get a copy. I have a copy. You need to read it. This woman did an excellent job of tracing that slavery mentality and life that our forefathers experienced.
Miss,
may I answer? I see one
Yes.
one of our attendees is asking about what does colorism mean? I want to say
Yes.
Well, when I'm talking about colorism, I'm talking about within the Black race. I'm talking.
That's right. That's why I said if you were yellow, you were right.
Well,
Ms. McCoy, let her finish.
I'm not necessarily saying that. What I am saying, different hues. The lighter the hue of your skin, the better opportunities were presented to you. The darker you are, hue, you would not have, like you would have maybe the school counselor. The school counselor would make sure those of a lighter complexion would get the scholarship as opposed to a darker complexion person who had even an as high or higher GPA. And also, while I have the floor, and then I'll give it away, I want to come back about UNC. I do want to say that back in 1955, there are three of the lawyers in our neighborhood of College Heights, Floyd McKissick, lawyer Thompson, and Beth, who's the other one? Okay.
Oh, John Wheeler.
John Wheeler.
Gates.
He was there were three students from Hillside High School, two of them being my neighbors who lived across the street, Ralph and Leroy Frazier. They fought all the way to the United States Supreme Court in order to gain entry and were the first Black undergraduates at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
But you got to remember, Floyd had already graduated from NCCU Law School.
I said that he was an attorney. The three students were actually Leroy Frazier, Ralph Frazier, and James Brandon. Those were the three students. I named off first the three attorneys because I was talking about three attorneys from College Heights, and two of the three students were from College Heights.
I want to quickly ask you this question. Let me quickly ask you this question because we have just a few minutes. And if you could just give me one or two of you give me an answer. How should we continue to preserve history and share stories like you shared today? If you could just quickly give me.
Doing oral history documentation.
And interviewing neighbors' children with their recollections and preserving old pictures.
Yeah, I think this series is really great, and it's a great way to document the history of the Black communities within Durham. I think it's a good concept to follow with each individual community to, if you still have the ancestors with you, to talk to them, videotape them, record those memories, to live forward. Because I personally feel that if people know and understand, if they're provided the knowledge and they gain that knowledge, and it gives them more of an awareness, and it provides them with a situation where they can have empathy for the spaces that they're attempting to inhabit.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your contribution today so that we can continue these stories. I'm sure that everyone has gained a lot from what you've had to share with us. And I want to thank Laura and all of the NIS staff for assisting us with bringing this forward to the community today.
Thank you, Constance. And as always, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, especially Ms. McCoy, for coming in and being able to join us last minute. It's so great to have you on the call, and everyone else. And to City Manager Paige, who was able to join us in her busy schedule. And again, to all the other staff who work behind the scenes to make this possible. Coming up next month, we have, we're partnering with the city's Parks and Rec Department, and we're doing a special episode on the Algonquin Club, which I think will be really exciting to learn about. I was looking at the notes in preparation they've done, and it's going to be very cool. As always, we're looking to continue sharing these stories and continuing to learn about other communities, and probably and continue to think about how to come back and learn more, because an hour is never enough and it really just flies by. And that's just with the small number of people that we're able to have on now. So if you ever have thoughts or suggestions, you can always email me. And I also have included one of our collaborators, Fallon, who's been amazing in our general services department. All of the information about this work is available on our website, durhamcommunityengagement.org. And again, you can always see our past episodes. So this was the 12th that we've done so far. So we're about to turn a year old, which is really exciting. The last time I counted, we've had over 4,000 views total for all of our videos. Yeah, it's really exciting. They're available on the local access channel with Durham Television Network. If you have a chance to look up that schedule, it's the same place where city meetings are often broadcast. And then they're also available online on YouTube to watch whenever you want. And we've also, our intern, Carolyn Kajia, who is actually today is her last day, unfortunately, but she put together short clips from each of the episodes. So if some people are intimidated by the hour-and-a-half length, there are some 3 or 4 minute clips that will get you hooked, I promise. So please check those out. Again, you can access this YouTube list through our website, durhamcommunityengagement.org. And again, thank you to the city for supporting this and joining us today. And we look forward to talking with you again next month and hopefully eventually doing stuff in person. So stay safe until then. Thanks.
All right, thank you.